Supporters, well, we are in the aftermath, the fallout of what we saw last night between the Indiana Fever and an expansion team, the Portland Fire. A blowout loss in which we have seen the Indiana Fever take real fire from fans. They're upset. They're livid. They're done with meth.
One glance toward the sideline, a few head-scratching substitutions, and suddenly, the internet is treating this game like a full-blown investigation. Caitlin Clark looked focused. The rotations left fans scratching their heads. And now, frustration is boiling over as questions continue to pile up. Because after this game, one question has taken over the conversation. What exactly is happening behind these substitution decisions? And the more people try to piece the story together, the more confusing the answers seem to become.
This wasn't just a normal coaching moment. During an active disagreement with Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White appeared to turn a signal for Raven Johnson while Caitlin Clark was standing right in her face. This is her superstar, a franchise player we are talking about. There's already a narrative that this is why they drafted Raven to replace Caitlin in the first place. So whether the substitution itself was justified or not, it clearly wasn't to me. And I'm gonna just play it for you guys first so you guys get a good understanding of what I'm talking about. So as you can see, Stephanie White is going off on Caitlin Clark.
Before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is only getting bigger. One night in Indianapolis, the scoreboard told one version of events, but anyone watching closely saw a completely different story unfolding on the court. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the conversation online had shifted far beyond the final score. Fans weren't debating who won or lost. They were asking why one of the league's biggest stars seemed to be fading out of the game in plain sight, while everyone on the sidelines acted as if nothing unusual was happening. And the deeper people looked, the harder it became to explain.
Everything is burning down while the house is on fire, while Caitlin Clark fans have pitchforks in their hands, and rightfully so, marching, stomping, rioting, demanding change. As we should. Christy sides, she peeks in a little bit. From time to time, Christy sides peeks in to monitor the situation. Hey, what's going on over there? Oh, damn. Stephanie really ain't getting it done like I thought she would, huh?
Because when a team suffers a blowout loss, the usual suspects get the blame. Poor defense, costly turnovers, missed shots. But this game sparked a very different conversation. Fans weren't just breaking down the box score. They were focusing on something far more frustrating: the way Caitlin Clark was being used throughout the game. Possession after possession, substitution after substitution. It felt, at least to many watching, as if the offense was being directed away from its biggest playmaker instead of running through her. And that's where the frustration really began to boil over. Because once people started noticing the path,
that this is a fork in the road type defeat. This is where you audit whoever you are going to be for the season. This is where you got to look and decide, what identity is this team? And Stephanie White, the time has come. I have been cooler than a fan when it comes to talking about Stephanie White, because quite frankly, I think there's a lot that gets dumped on her that might not necessarily be her fault.
The matchup was already drawing plenty of attention, with the Indiana Fever entering what many viewed as a statement game opportunity. Expectations were high, and all eyes were on how the team would respond under the spotlight. Instead, the night unfolded with momentum constantly slipping away. Just when it seemed like the Fever were finding a spark, the flow would break, and any progress quickly stalled. And for many fans watching, the most frustrating part was that every time Caitlin Clark appeared ready to settle into a rhythm, something seemed to disrupt it at exactly the wrong moment. The result was a growing sense of confusion, and as the game wore on, the reactions online became louder and harder to ignore.
Bit skeptical with the constant overreactions from Caitlin Clark fans, mainly because it seems to happen after every game. My shining star is being mistreated. Stephanie White hates her. It's not fair. They're like the boys who cried Clark After every game, there seems to be an overreaction. A couple weeks ago, the Indiana Clarks announced around 90 minutes before tip-off that their only star would be missing their game against the Portland Aspire.
Then came the sequence that set social media on fire. It wasn't a game-winning shot. It wasn't a controversial call. It was a stretch of substitutions that left fans questioning what was happening behind the scenes. Time and again, Caitlin Clark appeared to be finding her rhythm, reading defenses, pushing the pace, creating opportunities, and generating energy for the offense. And just as that momentum seemed ready to build, she was back on the bench, watching from the sidelines as the spark faded and the game slipped away. That's when the conversation stopped being about what went wrong on the court and became something much bigger. Why does this keep happening? Suddenly, attention shifted toward the coaching decisions behind those moments. Fans began questioning whether the Indiana Fever were maximizing the impact of a player who attracts more attention than almost anyone else in the league every time she steps onto the floor. What made the situation even more confusing was Clark's demeanor. There were no obvious signs of injury, fatigue, or hesitation. She looked engaged, focused, and ready to keep attacking. Yet the rotations kept interrupting her flow. And for elite guards, rhythm is often everything. The constant stop and start pattern started to feel, at least from the perspective of many fans, less like a calculated strategy and more like a disruption of momentum. Whether that perception was fair or not, it quickly became the story. The coaching staff offered no public indication that anything unusual was taking place. But rather than quieting the discussion, the lack of explanation only fueled more speculation. Because once fans believe they've spotted a pattern, every repeated moment begins to reinforce it. And when that pattern involves a player as closely watched, debated, and scrutinized as Caitlin Clark, even ordinary decisions can start to feel far more significant than they might otherwise appear.
And now, on top of everything else, just coming off of them having words the other day during a game, we've got more footage of Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White going at it. You know, my boy Rudy over at the Come On Now podcast said he believes the locker room may be fractured. I saw a comment a minute ago.
What made the situation even more intense was how quickly the game seemed to slip away as those rotations became more frequent. Each time the pace shifted with Caitlin Clark off the floor, Indiana appeared to struggle to maintain the same level of control. Momentum swings became more noticeable, and before long, even neutral viewers were asking the same question. Why is the player who seems to stabilize the offense spending so much time away from it? That's when the criticism expanded beyond a single night. Fans began revisiting previous games, pointing to similar stretches where Clark would start strong, build momentum, and then disappear from the action for extended periods, only returning after the game's direction had already changed. Whether that interpretation was completely fair or not, it fueled a growing belief among some supporters that her impact was being limited by the way she was being managed. Meanwhile, the game itself continued to add fuel to the debate. Even when Indiana tried to regain control, the offense often looked less organized without its primary playmaker on the floor. Possessions became more scattered, the rhythm felt inconsistent, and the overall structure appeared harder to maintain. And that visible fragmentation was exactly what many fans pointed to as they questioned the timing of those decisions during some of the most important stretches of the game.
It's over, guys. Caitlin Clark is mentally checked out. She's done. She's done. She's done with Stephanie White. She's done with Stephanie White. Look at this here. This is a player that is mentally done. Stephanie White, congratulations. You have mentally defeated Caitlin Clark. She's done.
What made the debate even more intense was the contrast on the court. Whenever Caitlin Clark was playing, there were clear flashes of pace, spacing, and creativity that immediately changed the way defenses had to respond. The offense looked sharper, the tempo picked up, and opportunities seemed to appear out of nowhere. But just as those moments began building momentum, the rhythm would often be interrupted. For many fans, it felt like watching a spark catch fire only to be smothered before it had the chance to spread. By the final minutes, Frustration had reached a point where the outcome of the game almost felt secondary. The conversation was no longer centered on the loss itself. Instead, it had shifted toward accountability, with fans demanding answers about why the Indiana Fever seemed unable to consistently build around the player drawing the most attention in the league. And that's where the uncomfortable questions started to emerge. When a franchise built around a generational talent repeatedly finds itself in situations where that player appears less involved during critical stretches, people inevitably begin wondering whether the issue is simply temporary growing pains, or something more fundamental about how the team wants to operate moving forward. The irony is impossible to ignore. Almost every possession Clark plays generates more discussion, attention, and scrutiny than entire quarters of other games. Yet many fans feel that the way those possessions are managed lacks consistency. And that gap between attention and utilization is exactly what transformed an ordinary blowout loss into a controversy that continues to grow long after the final buzzer sounded.